I am honored, Baba, to read your eulogy. May the Lord give me peace and give peace that transcends all understanding to us, your orphans. Raila Molo Odinga is truly a once-in-a-generation leader, a man whose ideals transcended politics and whose legacy will shape. President William Ruto announced the demise of former Premier on 15th October 2025. On the 15th October 2025, the mortal journey of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga came to an end. But his spirit is immortalized in the story of a life that began on the 7th of January 1945. For 80 years, he embodied resilience, boundless optimism, a will to test limits, ventured into new frontiers and imagined new horizons, all in a steadfast love for country. He was a leader who never wavered in his belief in the good of his people. Raila Odinga lived a life of purpose. He chose to fly high, urged the nation to dare, and challenged Africa to fight for its place in the world and retrace the dreams of the continent's founders. Over the past 3 years, we have witnessed an outpouring of emotions of a nation gripped in grief. Africa has grieved for him. Indeed, the world has grieved for him. Our nation and our world struggling with the question, did we really know him in his fighting to find hope in his enduring legacy? Raila Odinga may not have been there to fight the country's war for independence, but he bows out as an undisputed leader of the national rebirth of the Kenyan nation. He easily became the bridge between our generation and that of our grandfather, the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who fought for our country's independence from colonialism. He learned at the feet of Kenyans and Africa's most revered leaders. He witnessed the liberation ideals and struggles of Pan-African heroes, including our grandfather Jaramogi, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, Kwame Nkrumah, Gamal Abdel Nasser, and Kenneth Kaunda, among others. He followed and internalized Nelson Mandela's struggles and agreed with his philosophy that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. That the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Raila conquered fear and mastered courage. Possibility of death in pursuit of an ideal was not a reason for Raila to retreat, for he also internalized William Shakespeare's words that cowards may die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once. It is from that perch that Raila began his operation, applying himself to the cause as a debt owed to past and due to the present generations. Many times he appeared to be on a cause much larger than himself, a mission almost impossible. But he seemed to be the way he loved it. He gave his life for it. In emulating the giant steps of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, our grandfather, and the spirit of selflessness that ran deep in his heritage, Raila Odinga, just as his father once declared that he could be no freedom for the release, without the release of their leader Jomo Kenyatta, proclaimed Kibaki Tosha, a declaration that propelled NARC to bring an end to KANU's 40-year rule. This defining act was emblematic of the man himself. Raila Odinga was Raila Odinga. He never cared what others thought about him or his actions. He cared whether people bought into his vision and mission. Once he felt he had the mandate of the people, there will be no turning back. In the process, he became Kenya's ultimate political prisoner and one of Africa's best-known freedom fighters, a dedicated and down-to-earth servant of the people of Kenya, a headache to the corrupt elite, and a beacon of hope for those struggling for freedom, not only in Kenya, but across Africa and beyond. Generations to come will honor him and offer gratitude. Raila Odinga cared deeply about Africa and worried eternally about its decline. For that, he applied himself to peace and reconciliation missions across the continent whenever called upon. During the 90s, he worked closely with the International Republican Institute as a resource person for peace and conflict resolution in the then war-torn countries of Mozambique and Burundi, and offered similar support to peaceful electoral processes in Nigeria and Zimbabwe. He mastered Africa's conflicts and the forces and issues behind them. The highest executive position he ever rose to was that of Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, following the signing of a National Accord and Reconciliation Act 2008, which created the office to facilitate power sharing after the controversial term as Member of Parliament for Lang'ata constituency within the city of Nairobi from 1992. However, the hallmark of Raila's life and career was not in executive mansions and offices. It was in the struggle for freedom and democracy in Kenya and across Africa, many times telling the continent's dictators to set their people free. It earned him outright enemies, cynical friends, and admirers in Africa and beyond. It is this record that saw him appointed Special Peace Envoy of the African Union in February 2011, following the post-election crisis in Cote d'Ivoire. He juggled politics, entrepreneurship, scholarship with ease. Besides his career in politics, Mr. Odinga is also a successful businessman and entrepreneur, having founded the flagship family business, East Africa Spectre, a manufacturer of gas cylinders for Kenya and the East African region. Subsequently, he founded Spectre International, also known as the popularly known as the molasses plant. Before that, he had taught at the University of Nairobi's Department of Mechanical Engineering between 1970 and 1974, and served at the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which he was instrumental in establishing. Even as he pursued all these careers, Raila understood that social, political, and economic changes in our country came through politics, and that although all politics is local, politics is also substantially international. So even as he appeared to be rabble-rousing in the trenches of Kibra and Kondele, he understood that an hour comes when he needed to dust himself off and sit in boardrooms or take a plane to global capitals to negotiate politics and policies. He did that effortlessly, moving from dusty Kamkunji grounds to a meeting in diplomatic circuits of the country within the hour. It was normal for a shot at, only for him to show up at the boardroom for meetings with his tormentors as if torture understood the place of man-to-man negotiations in the quest to influence policy and power. Raila disagreed fundamentally with many politicians about the state of the Kenyan nation and how to transform it. But those disagreements never stopped him from sitting down with those he disagreed with or sympathizing with the views of fellow politicians. Raila believed in political parties as vehicles for advancing democracy and good governance. It is upon this belief that he was founder member of the Forum for Restoration of Democracy, FORD, later FORD Kenya in 1991, the National Democratic Party, NDP, in 1996, and the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, in 1997. And in 2005, his present political vehicle, the Orange Democratic Party of Kenya, ODM. In 2013, he led his party into coalition with other parties to form the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Code, on whose ticket he ran for president. He challenged the election results at the Supreme Court, which ruled in favor of his opponent. He accepted the verdict and took up the leadership of the opposition. He contested the 2017 presidential election on the ticket of the National Super Alliance, NASA, which election ended up being nullified by the Supreme Court, but he stayed out of the subsequent contest. Mr. Odinga was again picked by his coalition, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, for the presidency in 2022, whose results were confirmed against him by the Supreme Court. He accepted the verdict and has led the opposition coalition. Raila's early life prepared him to be a consummate African and citizen of the world, with early education in Kisumu and Siaya before leaving for Germany, where he began his high school education at the Herder Institute of Leipzig. He later transitioned to the Otto von Gutenberg University in Magdeburg, in the then East Germany, where he obtained a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering, specializing in production technology. In February 2024, Raila visited and extensively toured the two institutions, reliving his days there and recalling that when he arrived in Otto von Gutenberg, there was not more than 5 black students in the whole college. As a leader, Raila selflessness, sacrifice, collective leadership, humility, honesty. Other than Kenya, Raila's other greater love was Africa. He celebrated the continent's potential and mourned its poverty. He mourned the death of leadership on the continent and felt the pain of its people being left behind by less endowed regions of the world because of failure of leadership. Indeed, the last major political project Raila quietly embarked on just days before his death was a third biography dedicated purely to Pan-Africanism and what needs to be done to take the continent forward. In October 2018, Raila was appointed as the African Union High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa. He moved into the position with the swiftness and certainty of fish in water. He named the continental highway networks corridors, railways and airports as if they were in Kenya. He was at ease with Africa's trade deficit figures in comparison to other parts of the world. In politics, Raila communicated the importance of reconciliation, forgiveness, and putting country over self. He forgave his jailers and worked with them to move the country forward. He emphasized that building a progressive country demanded leaders rise above anger and desire for revenge. He also believed strongly that preservation of a nation requires the triumph of pragmatism over ideology. That when the nation is under extreme threat, leaders must embrace extreme compromise. He believed power was not an end, but a means to an end. It should be used towards the desired end. He believed that power should be used to ensure the existence of the nation, not the demise of the nation. He wanted power to be used to ensure progress, prosperity, and peace of and among nations, and not for any causes that would yield contrary outcomes. We will cherish Raila's memory in the heart of our nation. And I believe in the hearts of many African nations. Fare thee well, our champion, our freedom fighter, our Baba. You have fought the long fight. You have finished the arduous race. You have kept the unshakable faith. Your work here is done. The struggle continues. Rest in peace and eternal, rest in perfect and eternal peace. Thank you, Baba. Long live the King!
Thank you. Thank you very much. The following